Yo, what's up, sociologists? It's Social Movements Case Study. Me too. Number 3. Let's do it. Right on. So, learning goals. Here are some. You're going to know about the types of power used in Me Too. And you're going to know the outcomes of Me Too. There's a whole heap of outcomes. There's going to be a lot of notes about outcomes, sorry. And you're going to be able to use evidence exceptionally well, I have no doubt. So how is power used in Me Too? Is it legitimate or illegitimate power? I just want you to think about that. What do you think? Is the power that the social movement itself using legitimate or illegitimate? From the point of view of the perpetrators of sexual assault, could you say that they had legitimate power that they used illegitimately? Right? So, a network boss has got a lot of power, but he uses it to harass female staff members or to try to get sexual favours out of them. Is that an illegitimate use of legitimate power? Yeah, because sexual harassment is often by those in power. Just a side note, quite a few of those involved had charismatic authority. This is perpetrators we're talking about here. And also survivors. A lot of the reason why the movement has been so successful is because it's had celebrities on site, and they are extremely influential in our society, for better or worse. Don't know about that, but and those celebrities have got charismatic authority. As mentioned in an earlier lesson, celebrities are asked their opinion about all kinds of stuff that they really aren't experts in, but because they've got charismatic authority, we want to know their thoughts on Palestine, even though they're just some random action actor, whatever. One sociologist has pointed out that because there's been a backlash against the Me Too movement, this kind of tells them, oh, okay, we're obviously doing something right. We're obviously got legitimate power, because people, if you got haters, you must be doing something interesting. Yeah. Can't remember the comedian who said it, but Cat Williams, who said, haters are going to hate, that's their job. Your job is to get as many haters as you can by being awesome. If you don't have any haters, you're not doing it much. So the fact that the Me Too movement has got haters and there's a backlash suggests that it's got some power, that's for sure. Here are 4 extremely powerful men who had their sexual assault, them committing sexual assault discovered during the Me Too movement. Obviously, we've got Weinstein on the right there, Bill Cosby, Kevin Spacey. I don't know who that guy is. I could spend 10 minutes and Google it, but anyway. Might be Roger Ailes or... I don't know. No, it's not Roger Ailes. It's someone. Here's an interesting graph. False accusations. This is part of the backlash. So this is how people feel, right? This many people, and look, so from light blue to dark blue, right? So you could argue that the change in bars is the effect of the Me Too movement. So the backlash shows that more people were worried about false accusations. More people are worried that women who complain about sexual harassment cause more problems than they solve. And more people think the men who sexually harassed women 20 years ago should not lose their jobs today. You'll notice that women by far are less likely to agree with any of those statements. And this is obviously US because it's comparing people who voted for Trump versus people who voted for Hillary Clinton in the 2016 US presidential election. That being a proxy roughly for social progressiveness versus social conservatism. It's interesting that last question, men who sexually harassed women 20 years ago should not lose their jobs today. I'm not surprised that a majority of Trump voters believe that, because Brett Kavanaugh, if you believe Dr. Blasey Ford, which I certainly do, was sexually attempted to rape someone and yet was still able to get onto the US Supreme Court. But of course, bear in mind that these are still all minority views, except for some of those Trump voters. Anyway, So what are the outcomes of Me Too? There have been many. Let's document them. There have been male movements of acceptance, hashtag I did that. In response to Me Too, they're saying, yeah, they're owning up. They're saying, yes, I sexually harassed or sexually assaulted someone. There's that. It's spread to schools. Sexual harassment is rife in schools, and this is another form of bullying that goes on. It's really strange to me that the school playground is like one of the most horrible places in society. It's, you can't blame it on teachers. It's just kids. I don't have any answers anyway. Although, it's interesting, I think what's classified as bullying now is way less than when I was at school. If it was bullying, it was like, you've got bruises. Whereas now, mean words are classified as bullying, which I agree with. That's fine. Okay. But yes, so the Me Too K-12, that means that's like K means kinder, so prep to 12. There's another hashtag activism thing going on there. Now we've got, and obviously you've heard my opinion on this, we've got some men who are worried. They say they're going to need to stay away from women as they don't know what inappropriate is. As I've mentioned, this is disproved in research. 45% of American Facebook users had a friend who used the Me Too hashtag, so that's a huge number. That's just in the US. So there you go. A lot of companies now have to disclose their diversity statistics, i.e. they have to say how many female versus male board members or people who get promotions, just to show how shocking it is and how men get promotions more often than women. One of the major reasons behind the gender pay gap is not people getting paid different amounts of money for doing the same work. It's because men get promoted more, despite like irrelevant of actual ability. Like the Australian Parliament, I think only has 29% females in it, and you can't tell me that men are better at politics than women. That's the opposite of the truth, in my opinion. Anyway, there have been arrests. So, for example, the big name ones, Harvey Weinstein. There's a thing called the Weinstein effect, which is where once a big allegation comes out, a lot more people feel comfortable to make allegations, even historical ones, and so much more people start going down for sexual harassment and assault. And obviously Bill Cosby, he was all about drugging people as well. Can't watch the Cosby Show anymore because Bill's too gross. Same with Michael Jackson. Ugh. There have been people fired but not arrested. So Roger Ailes was big in one of the US networks, I can't remember which one, and Bill O'Reilly, CBS, he was a news anchor, and he sexually harassed a number of female staff that he worked with. They didn't get arrested, but they did lose their jobs. Here's a quote. We've seen this sea change where women and girls are suddenly able to come together and compare notes and support one another. So this is obviously in some kind of debate whether Me Too has failed, and I guess her quote suggests no, it hasn't. More outcomes of Me Too. Okay, a huge number of women and men have made sexual assault allegations, and it's an obvious outcome of it. The Time's Up Legal Defence Fund was set up in 2018. There's been about 3,500 women who have accessed legal funds through that. There's a number of documentaries and movies, that should say, about powerful men who sexually assault, so that increases awareness. This whole increasing awareness thing, you've heard me rant about it before, but actually I think in this instance, increasing the awareness of the prevalence of sexual harassment and assault is really important because firstly, it brings it out in the open. More people are likely to call it out if they see it, and so on. One of the outcomes of Me Too is that there's been a backlash against the Me Too movement. So some people suggest that there's been too much of an overcorrection. We've gone too far into the realm of having to be really, really careful around people that might accuse you of sexual harassment. There's been the question of false accusations, which I think we've talked about enough. You know my view on that. 2%. That's not a lot. Here's 9 big people who have... Oh, I didn't know about all of them. Oh yeah, so we got Ben Affleck, Kevin Spacey, Louis C.K., the comedian. Don't know who that guy is. Weinstein, obviously. Is that Bush Senior? Ugh. I'm pretty sure that's Oliver Stone, the director, and then I don't know who that guy is. I should though. And is that JT? Anyway. But here is a group of women at the Golden Globes wearing black to support the Time's Up movement. This was the launch of it. And there you can see Tarana Burke right there. Let's put a circle around her. There she is. E. And there's Hermione from Harry Potter. Cool. More outcomes. So, and I'm going to show you where this research came from. There's been a decline in sexual coercion in the workplace. There's been a decline in unwanted sexual attention in the workplace. So, you have to say it's been successful. There has also been a decline in women doubting themselves. There's been an increase in gender harassment. So that's one negative effect. So gender harassment is negative treatment based on your gender, but it's not sexual. So like, you fight like a girl. That's gender harassment. It's not sexual in nature, but it's discriminating against someone based on their gender. There's been an increase in women's self-esteem, another positive benefit there. So the figures that I'm quoting about the fact that sexual harassment has dropped, but gender harassment has increased, is from a study published in the Harvard Business Review. They did it 2 years after the Me Too took off, so in 2018 here, and it was done. Here's the data here. So they asked people in workplaces some questions in 2016, and then they asked again in 2018 and compared the answers, and they found increase in gender harassment. Remember, that's negative treatment but non-sexual, but a decrease in sexual coercion, a decrease in unwanted sexual attention, and an increase in self-esteem and a reduction in self-doubt of women in the workplace. Take that with a grain of salt though. That's one study done with only like 300 or 400 people in the US, but it's something. Okay, so this is an activity. It's more about finding evidence than using it, but anyway, I want you to find specific, concrete, actual examples of these outcomes. I want you to tell me who has changed. Give me names of actual people or groups. How have they changed? Tell me exactly how they've changed. And what has changed? Have any laws changed? Have any beliefs changed? What are they? Who had them? Have any norms changed? Have any traditions changed? Obviously, you guys, most of you aren't in workplaces regularly, so whether you can talk about any workplace tradition changes, you probably haven't been in the workforce long enough to know that answer. But it could be an interesting conversation to have with your parents. They definitely would have noticed. If there has been change, they would have noticed it because they've been in the workforce for like 20 years. Has there been a change in resources? Like, are some groups losing money, other groups gaining money, any other kind of resources? Here's Alyssa Milano. So she was the one that kind of kicked it off properly in 2017. Check it out.
Now to the Me Too movement growing this morning in the wake of the Harvey Weinstein scandal. Millions of women sharing their own stories online, saying sexual harassment and assault isn't just a problem for Hollywood. We're going to speak exclusively with Alyssa Milano, who helped reignite the Me Too movement. We'll talk to her in just a moment, but first, Lindsay Davis has the latest.
Beyond the glamour and glitz of Tinseltown, this morning more women in Hollywood are coming forward with claims about the kind of men Molly Ringwald calls all the other Harvey Weinsteins. In an article for The New Yorker, the actress famous for Pretty in Pink describes 2 alleged incidents of sexual harassment by men in the movie industry when she was in her early teens. Ringwald writes, I never talked about these things publicly because, as a woman, it has always felt like I may as well have been talking about the weather. The fallout from the Weinstein scandal is reverberating in countless other industries as women feel empowered to tell their stories for the first time. Maureen York is the chief television critic for Variety. She says she was sexually assaulted by a television executive at a party in 2014.
He came after me 3 times. It took me a while to really be able to say the word sexual assault to myself.
Maureen, like so many other women, is finding a supportive community on social media. That movement took off last weekend when Alyssa Milano highlighted it on Twitter, posting, "If you've been sexually harassed or assaulted, write me too," as a reply to this tweet. Now this morning, 1.5 million tweets and 13.5 million posts, comments, and reactions on Facebook and Twitter. Some of the top employment law firms in the country tell ABC News they're seeing a significant increase in inquiries related to sexual harassment. One firm says calls have tripled.
That's an epidemic.
The Me Too campaign was first created by Tarana Burke 10 years ago to aid sexual assault survivors in underprivileged communities.
This is not about me, it's about survivors. And it's about what survivors need to be healthy and whole.
For Good Morning America, Lindsay Davis, ABC News, New York.
Our thanks to Lindsay and Tarana. We're joined exclusively now by actress and activist Alyssa Milano. It is so good to see you, Alyssa. And millions posting online. It's hard to believe that some people are surprised by that, but you're not. In fact, you said that was your purpose, to give people the sense of the magnitude of this problem, Alyssa?
Yeah, I mean, I just think that it's something that is so prevalent. It is a cultural issue that I think that we have to face. And women posting Me Too, I think, gave them the courage to not have to tell their story or not have to name their predator, but to just stand in solidarity. And I think that the numbers are a testament to how powerful women can be when we do stand together and we are one.
And what we've seen, Alyssa, it's women and some men from all walks of life. Some names that we know, some that we don't know. And you have indicated that this is very personal for you, but you haven't shared any specifics. When do you think that you'll be ready to share your story in full?
I'm not sure, and I don't know if I will ever publicly share my story. Of course, I've done my own healing and been through counseling and have a great support system in my life. But really, this was about showing that this happens everywhere, that it's not just Hollywood, that it's not just actresses, that it's women on Wall Street, it's women in a hospital, it's caretakers, it's women walking down the street. You know, I have been harassed so many times I can't count. I've been assaulted, but this wasn't because I was an actress. These were instances that were, you know, if I was at a bar with friends or in a cab. So I think it's really important that, and I know it's hard because this Harvey Weinstein craziness has really taken over, but what the Me Too campaign really does and what Tarana Burke has really enabled us all to do is put the focus back on the victims. To give us a voice, to give us strength, to give us power. And what that enables us to do is say, no more, no more. We're not going to put up with this anymore. We're going to be vocal until this stops. Not one more. It stops here.
And how do we make it stop here? Because, as you know, Tarana started this 10 years ago. You have simply reignited it. A hashtag does not. It's wonderful in then having the conversation, but where does it go from here, Alyssa? How does it become more than a conversation?
It has to go beyond just a hashtag movement, and I'm going to be working with Tarana. I have the Creative Coalition behind me, and we're really going to try to put in place everything that needs to happen to ensure that there is protocol, that there is accessible. You know, I think that there are a lot of gray lines, and I think that's because so many women don't voice, because we've been silenced, our concerns or what upsets us. So we need to figure out those protocols and define those lines so that men know that they cannot cross them. You know, I talk about all the time, like, it's so interesting to me that my kid in school learns that if his clothes catch on fire, that he should stop, drop, and roll. But there's nothing teaching our kids in school the protocol of gender equality and what that means, and decency and respect towards the opposite gender. So I'm hoping to work with Tirana and the Creative Coalition to really put together something that takes this beyond a hashtag movement, and people can reach me on Twitter. I'm looking for suggestions. I really want this to be about the every woman's voice. I want it to be, this is your movement, women. This is your time, and if I can be the vessel and hold the bullhorn for you guys to shout as loud as humanly possible, then I'm honored to do so. But let's fix this problem.
It's a privilege to be a messenger, isn't it?
Yes. Truly.
All right, Alyssa, thank you very much. You and Toronto, what you have continued to have this conversation and what you want to do to move it forward, so it is more than just that. Thank you for joining us.
Yes.
Absolutely
Thank
appreciate
you, Robin.
it. Take care.
And you can really feel the power in her voice.
Unmistakable. Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.
And here's a video asking the question, has the Me Too movement gone too far? Bit of backlash for you. Obviously, you know my answer to that question.
You're a dating expert, but there are a lot of men who complain that actually dating is now impossible because if you try and make a pass at someone, if you try and indicate that you're interested, put maybe a hand on a knee, you could be accused of sexual harassment, lose your job.
I mean, I don't know.
And your reputation.
I'm not quite sure what men you're speaking about, because the men that I know and the men that I deal with, they have absolutely no problems in the confidence that their approach is correct and gentlemanly. The only people moaning are the loser men who have predatory tactics to go out and get a woman into bed. No one else is moaning. Like, the confident guys are like, this is a good thing. Me Too's a good campaign. And it's good for women to speak out because they never realise how much and prolific sexual harassment is in and out of the workplace.
Well, Ella, are you speaking to men who are nervous and are afraid?
Yeah, definitely. I think that it doesn't take a kind of loser to be nervous about this. I think actually there's also nothing wrong with going out and trying to get someone into bed. Lots of us have done it many times, and certainly you might be a dating expert. I've been on a lot of dates, and I can definitely tell you that there is a fear between the sexes now, and I think Me Too has exacerbated that normal behaviour, flirting, heavy comments, gets constituted as kind of some serious misconduct, which is absolutely wrong.
Touching someone's knee and being inappropriate shouldn't be classed as normal behaviour. That is not normal. I don't want you to touch. I don't want. No one's ever touched your knee. I don't want.
You've never been on a date where at some stage the guy has made a move and you've either accepted it or rebuffed it?
If you touch my knee and I put your hand away and then you come back again, that is inappropriate, so really and that shouldn't be normalised.
Yeah, no, that's really different from, you know, when someone is flirting with you and you make it clear that you don't want to engage in that sexual relationship and then they carry on. That's bad behaviour. It's not necessarily sexual harassment, but that's bad behaviour. It's poor manners.
I also think there is an issue where we're talking about it as if all of this sexual harassment has occurred within a dating context. The point about it is that it was not within a dating context. A lot of this was in business meetings, when women were at work, when they thought they were meeting a contact to discuss a potential story. They didn't think they were in an environment where they were going to experience a come on.
I'm really worried about this kind of policing of the workplace, because I certainly have enjoyed some workplace flirtations in my time.
40% of all romances apparently begin in the workplace.
Well, there is that, but I think we're in pushing for the Me Too thing to carry on, and it is a kind of really scalp-hungry and very...
for the Me Too
pushing for the Me Too.
No one's pushing for it. Women are coming out and telling stories of incidences they have been sexually assaulted and harassed.
hang on.
Okay, let me jump in. It's the problem, it seems to me, which is the problem highlighted in this open letter from a lot of very prominent women in France. French women clearly have a different view about this to a lot of people here, a lot of women in America in particular, right? What they're saying is that there's a real danger, if you're not careful, of conflating rape, sexual assault and very serious sex crimes with what they describe as the normal human interaction between men and women. And that's dangerous. That actually you don't want to stop
What's dangerous
the romance.
is sexual harassment.
Yeah.
And that not being normalised.
But we're
That's
not
what
talking
dangerous.
about sexual harassment.
Men having boundaries is not dangerous.
Do you feel comfortable that the normal rules of law are being completely abandoned in all this? So basically any woman can go on any social media platform, make any allegations, is presumed to be automatically telling the truth. People are not actually going through any court process.
Absolutely not.
They're actually losing jobs, they're having lives ruined and so on. Do you feel comfortable with that? Because they don't.
Absolutely not, of course, because any woman that makes a false allegation should be dealt with swiftly and harshly by the courts.
But that's the point of the letter. The point of the letter is
that
the due process is being forgotten here. I think everyone agrees there's been a massive problem. Certainly, I mean, Hollywood's just outrageous.
No, not necessarily everyone agrees. Hang on, it's not necessarily that everyone agrees.
Isn't it?
There is that rape still happens and sexual harassment still happens, not on the epidemic levels that you're talking about or the Me Too campaign is talking about. That's still a conversation we need to have. But we're not talking about crimes here. We're not talking about people going to jail. We're talking about people touching knees, sending flirty texts.
Hang on.
The Me Too, hang on.
The point I was going to make. Harvey Weinstein and Kevin Spacey have almost certainly veered into criminal behaviour. And we will find that out when the police investigations finish. So actually, that's not correct. I mean, the point is that, and again, the point that Catherine Deneuve and others are making is you've got these appalling predators, and then you've got a lot of other cases that are now popping up where there's an automatic presumption that the man is guilty without any real due process.
But the Me Too campaign is not talking anymore specifically about Harvey Weinstein. It is talking about all men. And it is pathologising, hang on, it is criminalising sexual behaviour.
It is absolutely not. The Me Too campaign is about women's personal experience of sexual assault and sexual harassment. There is absolutely no chance it's talking about all men.
The majority of women,
That's
certainly in the UK,
the
majority of women, I think, certainly in the UK and the West, are kind of sick of this really patronising attack on sexual behaviour.
Actually, I think what they're sick of is being sexually harassed and assaulted.
Behaviour.
Women, I find this so insulting, the idea that women can't handle the sexual interaction between men. Of course, when it gets serious,
but we don't want it.
Let me finish. When it gets serious and when it goes into what you were describing as someone continuously trying it on with you, getting physical, that's a different thing. But managing sexual interactions in come-ons, flirting, sometimes which can be really candid and awkward, we can handle that. And
yes,
I
think
that's a really patronising view of women.
Well, it's not a patronising view of women. We can take it. We just don't want it. Yeah. And the difference is men need to learn boundaries and what's appropriate in terms of if I'm with my girls, I don't want a guy to ogle me. Well, if I don't want your attention and I don't want you to come on to me, then I don't want you to come on to me.
And here we have some Me Too stories. So these are stories of women who've experienced sexual assault and harassment. If this is too confronting, skip this part of the video.
I was about 15 years old. I was at a party, college party, and was drinking underage, you know, and somebody slipped something in my drink. And the next thing I knew, I woke up to someone I didn't know on top of me and unfortunately penetrating me, and I got so scared and screamed, and luckily I had other people at the party who busted down the door and came in, but it had already been too late. I'd already been assaulted. It was really hard because I thought at the time that nobody would understand, and I was 15 years old at a college party, so a lot of people put the blame on me. So hearing the Me Too movement, sorry.
It's okay. You want me to turn off the camera?
No, it's okay. I'm glad that people are getting out there and finally speaking up for survivors, because it's really important for us to do that. Be strong and always speak up, go get help, No matter how much or how many people you have to push out of the way, it was never your fault. Always press charges, because they need to pay for what they did to you, what they did to us. They can't keep doing it over and over again. So speak up and say something.
When I was a busser in a restaurant, we had a bunch of other workers in the kitchen, and they would always like walk by and they'd grab your ass really hard. I don't know why, but it was just a thing, and it was like, oh well, you just keep working. I don't know. It was just something you didn't really pay attention to. They'd grab your ass for no reason. I didn't think it was okay. It was very awkward, but it's, I mean, you work and you need the money, so the money was good.
Maybe give advice to other people who might be going through that right now.
I've learned to punch people. I probably don't advise people to punch people, but I guess if girls actually made some type of scene out of it when it happens, I guess that would change things dramatically, rather than, you know, letting it happen and then going to a manager secretly and trying to discuss it, because that never went anywhere.
Just recently I was in an Uber. On my way home I had some drinks and I kind of dozed off. I made the mistake of sitting in the front seat, and the guy that was driving, my Uber driver, actually reached over and put his hand up my dress. Speak up, report it. I mean, it's happening to more than, you know, just me or anyone like near me. It's happening everywhere. So speak up and don't be scared or embarrassed.
I just had a really unpleasant experience actually within the last week. I was in Barcelona and I was getting into a cab at like, I don't know, wee hours of the night, and I was like, you know, drunk and lost, and the cab driver actually started to like grab and grope me and like kiss me, and I like in the moment I like, you know, was just terrified, didn't know what to do. You know, usually like I always think about these things, but you know, when it happens to you, you are just like in shock. You know, you don't know what to do. But yeah, you know, you don't think like, oh, I'm on vacation, like, you know, nothing's gonna happen, blah blah blah. But no, it happens all the time. So
I'm a professional bridge player. That's a card game. It's it's a man's world, and typically whenever I sit down and have to play against probably some guys, they automatically assume that I'm retarded or I'm stupid, and I get comments like, oh, little honey, and oh, sweetie, and they might also ask me like, oh, whose girlfriend are you? Like, so something like that. That's what first came to mind, I think.
Okay, and then you beat them?
Yeah, of course.
I was in a relationship with a guy, and I was not ready to be intimate with him, and he just kept pushing and pushing, and he would get angry every time I tell him no. And eventually it started becoming more and more serious, and he would get aggressive, and so I finally broke off the relationship, and that was my only experience.
I don't know how to start this. I guess I would say in relation to the Me Too experience, I think everybody has experienced it. I think for so long, and what I'm noticing from people who I'm hearing their stories, we've minimized what we think is sexual harassment, and now people are more aware of, I hate to say it, this rape culture that we live in and that we've perpetuated as a society, and I'm glad it's actually coming to light and people are being held accountable.
Me Too, it's been happening for a long time, and I just think that it's going to be like a domino effect, that the person on the top has come down and now it's going to trickle down to everybody else. But now it's out in the open. I think now they know that they can't do this anymore, and women aren't going to put up with it, and they have a voice. So I'm glad it's happened.
I think that it's about time that everyone speaks up, and I know it's not easy for people to actually say that that has happened to them. There's a lot of shame that comes along with that happening. So I think it's a really fantastic movement, and I think we should continue to move forward and bring all of this to light.
A lot of the time I find that men can overpower women mentally even, and threaten them with stuff like displacing them from the workplace if they come forward, or hurting them or their family or people they love in mentally or physical ways, or just for, you know, speaking up. And I wish that would just go away, because we're moving forward and we need to get out of that era. We women, we need to be strong and have a voice and stick together.
I'm very proud, and I really admire all the women who came forward and shared their experiences with sexual harassment. And I hope, I mean, it's very saddening, but I hope this movement will start an even bigger movement, and hopefully we can finally help these women and give them a safe space to talk about what they went through, and also, you know, raise awareness for sexual harassment in general.
I think the Me Too movement is very important from a male perspective. Parents need to raise their boys to be gentlemen. They need to understand that until it's a yes, it's a no. And they need to understand that yes can change to no at any time. And that until it's a definite yes and always a definite yes all the way through, it's no.
Okay, for your reflection activity, I want you to do a real quick SWOT analysis of the Me Too movement. What are strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats? See, what's really cool about a SWOT analysis and practicing doing them is that this provides you with your material you need for doing a evaluation, because you're looking at strengths and weaknesses. So give me at least 1 dot point for each of those 4 boxes. Yes, homework. Practice response time. Here we go. Referring to a social movement you studied this year. Me too. But you can do Dakota if you want. Discuss how power is used by the social movement and its opposition. So how have individuals and groups in the Me Too movement used power? And how have people who are against the movement used power? It's worth 8 marks, so write for 12 minutes. You can plan it beforehand. Now remember to answer the question asked. This is a question that asks you to discuss. That's the task verb. Do that on OneNote, you'll get audio feedback from me. Thanks for participating in today's lesson, and don't ever forget to keep it real.